We're at the Braddock News Letterpress Museum on the South Central Threshing Association grounds at Braddock, North Dakota. What's special is that it's a collection of letterpress equipment, antique equipment. Our oldest is about 1875, and we go up to about 1950. 1952 was the 500th anniversary of printing. Letterpress basically means using movable type, or individual letters made from steel or wood or lead, and printing a page or a news story with movable type. And until about 1960, the process was pretty much what Gutenberg used, in that you had movable type or pieces of type, and you were using a machine to press it against a sheet of paper to produce something. We have about everything that a small print shop would have had between 1885 and 1960 or later. It's unique to have the full range of equipment still in operating condition. Kids are fascinated by the moving parts of the presses that we let them run. And they like to turn the wheel, and they like to see how it works, and they like to see the ink go on, and then they're very excited when they have printed something. And usually during the threshing show, we kind of become the unofficial babysitters, because kids from about 5, 6 to 11 kind of hang out here. And then depending on their level of enthusiasm, some of them leave with a big stack of things, but they get to print a picture of an engraving of Abraham Lincoln and a sailboat and a bunch of other graphics that we have. We have a form that certifies them as a printer's apprentice. Printer's apprentice is called the printer's devil. And so we tease them about being printer's devils, but they get to print a card that they can put their name on that certifies them. Of the presses, there's kind of 3 categories that we have. Platen presses have a bed on them where you put the type or the form, and then they press paper against the platen. And they're hand-fed presses. And then we have 3-cylinder presses, and these were used to print weekly newspapers many years ago. They go back to the 1890s. The third kind of press is an automatic press, and we have some Kluges, which are platen presses, but they're automated. So they use a vacuum system to feed the paper into the press and to take it out. And then we have typesetting equipment, and it sets type in lead. And so until the 60s, news stories in a weekly newspaper and some dailies would have been done with a linotype. Each letter has a brass mold which is stored in the magazine of the linotype, and as you press a key, the letters are released mechanically, and they assemble into a line, and then you cast a line of type in lead. And now we're going to cast the line. I've assembled it so it would be like one line of a news story, and I'm going to send it up. It's going to go over, it's going to come down, and when this elevator comes down, a plunger will force 500-degree lead into the mold to cast the line. And then the lead was melted down at the end of the week. In the case of a weekly, you'd tear the pages down and remelt the lead and start over the next week. That machine was invented in 1885, and it was a huge event because from 1452 on, every printer dreamed of some way to automate the typesetting process so that you didn't have to pick each letter individually out of a drawer to set a story. And so newspapers generally didn't have many pages in them, partly because of lack of advertising maybe, but also just because of the arduous task of hand setting each letter in a news story. And so that was a major turning point in the printing industry. Well, my wife Lee and I have 2 weekly newspapers. The newspapers we have now are the Prairie Pioneer at Pollock and the Emmons County Record in Linton. Since I grew up in a weekly newspaper and I grew up with this equipment, it's just sort of I enjoy it. If you see where you've been, you have a little bit more grasp of maybe where we're going. And here, this technology essentially goes back to 1452, and you see the struggle that people went through and how hard they had to work, but you also see that change continues. And so you look ahead 10 years or 100 years or 50 years, things are going to be a lot different, just as they are as you look back. And so I think it's a window to the future in a way, even though we're looking back.
Funded by the members of Prairie Public.